Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is training. The title is Layering Purposes, How to Best Kill Birds. So before the EPA goes after me here, or PETA, or whoever's in charge of birds, this is metaphorical. So what we're referring to this is there's the phrase killing two birds with one stone. And in training, this is definitely something we want to be paying attention to and always asking ourselves is, are the things I'm doing in my training giving me the purpose that I want? So is this doing what I want? And that's a very beginner basic question to start with. So if you're just getting kind of introduced to this idea, start there. But for most people listening to this podcast, you're going to know kind of that each thing you're doing does what you want it to do. But can it do more than just one single purpose? And we're going to give a lot of examples here as we go through. But this is what we want to ask ourselves is, are you doing exercises with singular purposes or with layered purposes? So, can you kill two birds with one stone? So for one exercise, can you attack two or more purposes or benefits or weaknesses or things that you need to improve? And can you kill just the birds that you want? So can you target the things that you want to target without accidentally destroying or crushing and messing up or beating up other things? So we've had a podcast in the past about collateral damage. So I'm going to look that up real quick and give you the number on that one. But what that refers to is, are the exercises I'm doing attacking just the muscles I want without causing other strains on the body, like strains on my joints or strains on my lower back, things like that. And that was podcast number 82, titled Collateral Damage Concerns. And that's what we're talking about with, can we kill just the birds that we want, is, are we getting the results we want out of that exercise without any unintended negatives? So, and we'll talk more about this later on, but a good example is like bent over rows. Like, do you want like barbell bent over rows? So that way you want a stimulus in your lower back. Maybe you're doing it as like an aid to deadlift strength. That means you maybe actually would want to do a barbell bent over row where your lower back has to be involved. However, oftentimes most aesthetic athletes, since they train at a higher volume, they want to minimize lower back stress and save it for things like squats or bigger deadlifts and stuff. So they maybe would want to do a chest supported row, which decreases lower back involvement. So what type of row do you want to get your upper back involved? So since that's the main target of most bent over rows, okay, is upper back. But if you do want your lower back, can you have that as a layered purpose? Get that in there. However, if you don't want your lower back, can you avoid the collateral damage and not kill that bird? Can you not kill your lower back while still trying to get your other purposes? So what got me to think about this is I had a conversation with a client recently. Well, actually not a client, sorry, a consultation recently. And it was a young guy, trains out of a kind of a big corporate gym, and he was having trouble finding all the equipment that he needed for his clients. So he had big ideas, a lot of fun stuff he wanted to do, but he was running out of time and he wouldn't always have access to the things that he wanted. So maybe he wanted to do a circuit of 3 exercises, but in a big commercial gym, one of the exercises might not be available, it might be busy. So what we were talking about was selecting singular exercises that achieved the purposes of what he thought those 3 exercises would have been for. So if he, like, I'm just making up an easy example here, but say he wanted to train the upper back and the lower back. Well, instead of doing, say, a chest supported row and then doing a back extension machine, like a 45 hyperextension, for example, well, you can just do barbell bent over rows or dumbbell bent over rows. That gets the upper back plus the lower back. So that's what we were going through and talking about was, number one, how to shorten his workouts, because He only had 30-minute sessions, so he was trying to figure out good 30-minute workouts. And in part of shortening his time, like in the gym, and then also improving his ability to address what he wanted to address with his clients without being limited by the equipment availability, was layering purposes. So I had a video we recently put up on our social media page about one of my mom's recent deadlift workouts. And one of the ways we ended the workout at the very end was with a dumbbell walking lunge run the rack technique. So if you're unfamiliar with what run the rack is, in a sense, like what we did with her, like dumbbell walking lunges, was she was doing around 20 steps, okay? And we were going 10 steps away from a dumbbell rack, 10 steps back to a dumbbell rack. So she would do body weight, 10 steps away, 10 steps back. She immediately grabbed 15-pound dumbbells. She did 10 steps away, 10 steps back. No rest in between there. Then she immediately grabbed 25-pound dumbbells. 10 steps away, 10 steps back. Again, no rest. So body weight into 15s, into 25s without any rest in between. She then put the 25s down, grabbed the 15s again. Again, 10 steps away, 10 steps back. Then she went back down to body weight for 10 steps away, 10 steps back. So that was 5 bouts of effort. Body weight, 15s, 25s, then 15s again, then body weight again. So it's almost like a pyramid. Like you start with a light weight, you work up to a heavy one, and then you do a drop set back down through the weights that you worked up with. So that's what considered run the rack means. And typically there's a bunch of variations to run the rack. But what run the rack refers to is like dumbbells on a rack, is you would do an exercise where you start at a high dumbbell, and then kind of work to the next dumbbell, then the next dumbbell, then the next dumbbell, doing like multiple drops. And you can do them with up sets, meaning your warm-ups are kind of blended together, and then into drop sets, or somebody might start heavy and just do drop sets all the way down. So run the racks have a ton of variations. But that's what we were doing at the end of her workout. Now, what that was she had already done bodybuilding work earlier in the workout. We did technique work for her deadlift, and then we did strength building specific to her deadlift. So what we were looking for at the end was something that kind of killed a lot of birds and was fast. So it only took maybe 6 minutes to do that whole entire set, and it gave us a lot of purposes. So one of the things it helped address was unilateral training to address imbalances from one side to the other. It also helped with high blood flow to help with joint restoration and evening out tightnesses of muscular tightnesses at the end of a heavy workout. So maybe if she was doing a bunch of heavy deadlifts, her hamstrings would have been maybe tighter than her quadriceps, and that might have created an imbalance in her knee that if she would have went home and just healed up and kind of stayed with normal everyday activity type range of motions, she might have came into the next workout and had really tight knees because the hamstrings and quadriceps were imbalanced during the recovery process. So doing a high repetition, high time under tension, high blood flow activity, it helps to restore tightnesses and even out tightnesses of muscles related to the joints of the activity. And that can actually help during the recovery process to lessen tightnesses around those joints or within the joints. So when you come in for the next workout, you actually feel better and you don't have so much stiffness and things you have to work through. So that was another benefit. It also gave us an aerobic stimulus because she was doing 5 sets of 20 all back to back to back to back, no rest in between. So that gave us our kind of like heart benefits, our lung benefits, a little bit of fat loss, all the kind of like aerobic based benefits was included in that. It also allowed for attention to hip tilt posture, which is something we're working on in her training to make sure her hips aren't dumped forward, causing stress in her lower back. So that was something she could pay attention to while she was doing the lunges as well. And it also improved her work capacity. So what this means is how much work she's able to do in one bout of effort, meaning like not a singular set, but a singular workout. So if you think of in a single workout, how much work can you actually physically do well? The more work you can do well, eventually the better of an athlete or better you can be towards your goal. So they talk about this in work capacity. Is another phrase for it is building the base. So if we think of a pyramid being the top of the pyramid being your goal, the wider the base of a pyramid, it gives a taller pyramid. So if I have a very wide base, meaning I can do a lot of activity, my work capacity is high. That means I can eventually peak that work capacity to a higher degree. And I can get a better kind of peak performance towards whatever my specific goal would be. So that's what the dumbbell walking lunges run the rack did for us at the end of the workout. Was the unilateral training to address imbalances, the high blood flow to address joint restoration. Aerobic stimulus allowed for attention to hip posture and improved her work capacity. And there are some other things, but that's pretty much enough to get the point across. So when you think of what you're doing in your workout, is do you have exercises that address more than one purpose? So those dumbbell walking lunge run the rack technique, that addressed five purposes that we mentioned. There's more, but that shows you that we could kill 5 birds with that one stone. Are you doing that in your training? Or are you just doing one exercise for one thing, one exercise for one thing? You're either going to end up having too long of workouts, where it's just going to be strenuous on you. It's not going to fit your lifestyle. It's going to be hard to maintain as a regular habit. So I see this in powerlifting training all the time, assuming they're actually taking their rest periods appropriately. So if you're taking a 2.5 hour workout, but you're taking like 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes between sets, that's on you. Okay, don't think that this concept is the problem. You are the problem. You're being lazy. So you have to have your rest periods appropriate. So maybe during like true maximal effort type sets, on like squat, bench, deadlift, stuff like that, you might need maybe a 3 to 5 minute rest, but you don't need 3 to 5 minute rest in your warm-ups. You don't need 3 to 5 minute rest in your accessories. So get your lazy ass moving, okay? But if you're adhering to rest periods correctly, and you're still having like 2.5, 3 hour workouts, that is not sustainable long-term for the rest of your life as a healthy way to train. Okay, it doesn't create a good life balance. So in order for you to have a better life balance, you would want to say, okay, am I addressing more things with each element of what I'm trying to do? So powerlifters absolutely 100% need to do that. So does other strength athletes like strongmen. Okay, you need to think of layered purposes as well, especially because implements take freaking forever to set up sometimes. So you're going to have a lot of just downtime with setting shit up as a strongman athlete. So make sure you have layered purposes so that way you don't waste so much time in your workouts. Now, aesthetic athletes. So you want to make sure that you're layering your purposes so that way you can just accomplish more goals. So if you ask any athletic athlete, and you say, what body part do you want to improve? They're going to say all of them. Okay? So maybe they'll say, like such and such is already too big. Maybe I don't need to do that. But if you ask them, what's a muscle or two that you want to work on? They're going to be like, well, I want to round out my delts. I'd like to bring up my chest, maybe even especially like my inner upper chest. I'd like to get more of like a detailed back, like a thicker back. Like I might have width to my back, but I don't have thickness. I definitely need to get my hamstrings balanced out, my hamstrings and glutes balanced out to my quads. I'd like to have maybe like bigger calves. So they just keep layering things and listing. So can they address all of those with just maybe 4 to 5 1-hour workouts a week? Yes. But they will only ever be able to do it with layered purposes. So I do train people for aesthetic competitions and help people win pro cards. And when you layer purposes as well, one of the greatest components of that is they don't have to spend forever in the gym in the off season, and then you don't have to freaking try to eat so much damn food that you're trying to out eat like 2-hour workouts, which are just going to limit your growth potential. So in the off season, if they don't layer their purposes well, they can't eat enough to grow. During contest preps, when you layer your purposes as well, you create a lot of muscular damage, which your body has to address. And through addressing that while in a controlled caloric content, like amount, they're actually going to get greater fat loss. So by being able to create deeper degrees of damage, they will have greater fat loss. This may be a little counterintuitive. Somebody might say, well, if I layer my purposes and I only work out 1 hour, but if I unlayer my purposes and it takes me an hour and a half, don't I burn more calories working out an hour and a half compared to 1 hour? The answer is yes, only during that workout time, but not during the 12 to 24 to 36 hours it takes to recover from the workout. If you can dig a deeper hole, meaning you can create more muscular stress by layering your purposes, you will actually burn more body fat, burn more calories through your recovery process. So yes, you may lose, say, 30 minutes of workout time in our example. And yeah, that might mean you burn 200 less calories. But by layering your purposes, by having very intense, deep, meaningful exercises, deep muscle damage exercises, you might burn an extra 500, 600, 700, 800 calories over the next day, day and a half by having to recover from those intensities. So you actually burn more calories through the recovery process by having layered purposes and deeper intentional damage to the muscles. Okay? So this is extremely, extremely important for all goals. So what benefits does each exercise you're doing give you? Can you create a workout where each exercise has a dual purpose, has at least two purposes? What about three purposes? So I'm going to give you a real quick chest workout that has, I'm only going to name 2 benefits per exercise, so that way it won't take forever. But this will give you an idea of it, okay? What I'm talking about is creating a workout where every exercise has at least a dual purpose. So the first thing you might start with is chest flies with isometric holds in the peak contraction. So what this means is you do and we'll do machine chest flies. So you do a machine chest fly, whether that's cables, you can do cable crossovers, you can do a pec fly machine, whatever you want to do. So just a machine chest fly. And when you're in the peak contraction where your hands are close together and you're squeezing your chest, hold that isometric squeeze, trying to break the handles together, trying to smash the handles together, make one solid handle. So you're not just holding the contraction, you're flexing like a freaking madman through the contraction. And you want to do that for 3 counts on each rep. So you'll go from a stretch position, feel the chest contract, contract, contract to a squeeze position, and then flex super freaking hard for 3, 2, 1. And then you go back out into the stretch position. You're going to do that for each rep, and you're going to aim for 40 to 60 seconds of time under tension. Now, you can do that anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 sets, whatever feels like it's a good exhaustion on the chest. So what that's going to do is that allows you to create pre-exhaust in the chest muscles. So we've talked before that as an aesthetic athlete or even a strength athlete, that the use of priming and pre-exhausting sets at the beginning of exercises is 100% absolutely important if you want the best results. If you are not doing priming exercises, if you are not doing pre-exhaust exercises, you are not getting the best results. Flat out, period, done. Okay? And that's podcast 334. We talk about priming versus pre-exhaust, where it explains the 2 concepts and tells you that you should be alternating them and using them in varying degrees. So if you don't know what priming and pre-exhausting is, go listen to podcast 334. And if you don't know what it is, it means you're not doing it. And for holy hell, are you missing out on some goals. So if you are not doing that, you are definitely missing on results that you could be getting. So that would be the benefit of starting with machine flies, is that it's going to give you the benefits that priming and pre-exhausting offer. The other benefit to it is by doing the isometric holds, you're also getting stress stimulus in the inner chest, which is where absolutely most people have weaknesses. In their chest development is the inner and upper chest. So this allows you to get the benefits of pre-exhaust, which helps you get better chest growth out of the entire workout. Then the isometric holds actually help you get a better targeted inner chest. Okay, so that way you can bring up a known weakness. The other benefit, I said I wasn't going to say more than 2, but I'm going to throw this out there, is by doing a machine fly with isometric holds, you get maximum stimulus into the chest, but there's really nothing else being annoyed. So that's that not killing the birds that we don't want. So I'm not having to heave dumbbells into position. I'm not having to do some kind of goofy shit where I'm wearing out my back, wearing out my shoulders, making myself too exhausted. When we say pre-exhaust, you're just trying to exhaust the muscle, not your whole damn body, your whole self. So by doing a machine to start your workout, which seems sacrilegious for certain bodybuilders, is it actually improves the overall benefits and makes sure you don't get that collateral damage concept that we've been trying to avoid. So after machine flies with isometric holds, you're going to do that for 3 to 5 sets of 40 to 60 seconds of time under tension. So if you're a weaker athlete, aim for 40. If you're a really strong athlete, aim more up towards the 60-second time under tension. Then, after that, you're going to go to dumbbell incline presses with 1.5 reps. So you're not doing only 1.5 reps. What this means is from the lockout position of a dumbbell press, you're going to go down to the full stretch. You're going to come halfway up through a chest contraction. Then you're going to go right back down to the full stretch and then press all the way to the top. So for every rep, you do a half rep. So from the lockout, I come to a full stretch. I squeeze my chest to drive the dumbbells halfway up. I then stretch my chest back to the bottom and then drive through a chest squeeze all the way back to the top. So that's called 1.5 reps. What this does, and these are done for 20 to 30 seconds of time under tension, again, 3 to 5 sets, and again, if you're a weaker athlete, aim for 20 seconds of time under tension. If you're a stronger athlete, aim for 30 seconds of time under tension. So what this does is an incline, so the name of the exercise there was the dumbbell incline presses for 1.5 reps. So the incline, you can do it 15-degree incline or 30-degree incline, but that helps target the upper chest. So we had the first exercise targets the inner chest, which we know is a weakness. We then have an incline which targets the upper chest, which we know is a weakness. So that gives us that benefit. The purpose of the 1.5 reps is it helps with increased time under tension and constant tension on the muscle in the weakest position. It actually allows you to use heavier weights overall for longer time under tension than if you were doing straight reps. So just normal all the way full range of motion reps. So 1.5 reps helps you use a heavier weight for a longer time under tension. Therefore, it creates more muscular stress compared to normal repetitions. So those are two benefits of dumbbell incline presses with 1.5 reps for that 20-30 second time under tension range. Then you're going to go to a superset of cable-seated scoop flies, and I'll explain that in a second, for 3 to 5 sets of 30 to 40 seconds of time under tension. Again, if you're a weaker athlete, go for 30 seconds. If you're a stronger athlete, go for 40 seconds. And you're going to be pairing those with push-up position stretches. Okay, and I like having people have their hands elevated, either on handles, like perfect push-up handles where they rotate and do whatever, or you can just put some 25s on the floor and put your hands on the 25s. But you want to have your hands elevated so when you go down into a stretched position, you don't have to worry about your chest hitting the floor before you're fully stretched. So the cable-seated scoop flies. What that is you can do them standing, but seated is better because you can more regulate your body position. But you would actually start the fly motion with your hands kind of, when your chest is stretched, okay? Instead of having your hands at chest height, they're actually going to be lower, about the height of your ribs. As you squeeze together for a fly motion, okay, when you're drawing that half circle around your body, creating the fly, you're going to bring your hands up to where they actually meet knuckle to knuckle at the height of your chin, or your neck actually is the better height. So they start kind of down by your ribs. As you come in for a squeeze, you lift the hands up to where they're touching at the height of your neck. So this is almost like a slanted line of plane of motion. So a normal fly, it's kind of like parallel with, if I'm doing a seated fly, say we're standing up, okay, and I'm doing a fly motion, my arms are going to be moving parallel with the ground. A scoop fly means they do not. My hands start low, and as I squeeze together for the fly, they elevate. What this does is this creates a diagonal line of stress through the chest fibers, so that way you can start by getting the outer pec, but in the fully peaked position, when you're fully contracted, you have an inner and upper chest contraction. What this commonly does for people is it goes past the fibers of the chest that they're most strongest and attacks their weakest ones. So this gets a more even chest development by attacking the outer pec right into the upper inner pec. So you kind of avoid the meaty middle, which helps you over time create a more full rounded chest muscle. So by doing this scoop motion, it allows you to continue to address and attack your known weaknesses. Also, by doing the flies 30 to 40 seconds of time retention before the push-up stretch and doing them in a supersetted fashion, it allows you to have a pump in the muscle before you go into a stretch. Anytime you do a stretch, if you can have a muscular pump beforehand, that allows the stretch to have less stress on the joints because the muscles are going to take more of the stretch tension. So, by doing the scoop flies first and doing them under 30 to 40 seconds of timer retention, which is a good timer retention for a pump, okay, compared to say 10 seconds, which doesn't create a pump. Then when you go into your push-ups, you get a better stretch in the muscles rather than the joints. Now, the purpose of the push-up stretch is literally just the bottom of a push-up, by the way. But what that does is it can increase muscular damage. Because you're stretching the muscle while it's pumped, that pisses the muscle off, and it creates micro tears, which is what we want. So that's actually going to get more muscle damage than not having done the stretch. Also, the push-up position stretch serves almost as a plank. So you can focus on squeezing your glutes, pulling your psoas in by pulling your belly button into your backbone. That helps maintain a neutral hip position, and you actually get some core work. This is actually really good for people who want to have abdominal control in their posing to make sure they don't have a bloated belly or a gut. So a GH gut, as they call it, but not related to GH. Well, that's a whole, yes it is, but I'll save that for some other day. But if you're trying to, when you pose or when you're standing, have your stomach in, so that way you can have a lean athletic core, by doing these push-ups in this position and paying attention to activating your core, it almost serves as a plank. Then also, this stretch ensures that you can open up the chest muscle before you leave for the workout. So that way you don't have AC joint stress coming into your next workout by having imbalanced tightnesses in the shoulders. So, just in those 4 exercises alone, you can see every single thing we were able to accomplish. So we did machine chest flies with iso holds. We then did dumbbell incline presses with 1.5 reps. We then did a superset of cable seated scoop flies with push-up stretch. That's it. Just 4 exercises. That takes maybe 30 minutes to do, maybe 30, 40 if you're kind of slow. But that's a great chest workout, and you'd still have time for biceps, triceps, or shoulders or something after that if you wanted to. So this is a great example of how to kill many birds with one stone. So you could hear, for just like what I named now, there's more to these things like unilateral targeting. There's variable time and retention ranges that we mentioned to target the different muscle fibers. There's more benefits than what I just mentioned there. But you could hear all of the benefits, the layered benefits that are in that workout with just 4 exercises. So look through your own training and ask yourself, how many birds does this kill for each exercise? Am I killing more than one bird? And does it kill only the bird I want? Okay, the birds I want. So like we said, for example, is bent over row variations. Sometimes you want the lower back involved if you're doing it as an accessory builder for deadlifting. Maybe you don't want the lower back involved if you're doing it for aesthetics and you just want to target the upper back. So you want to make sure that your training needs to be complex to be its best. But it needs to be complex in the sense that it's killing lots of birds, but it also needs to be simple in that you're only killing the birds you want. Okay? So, think through this. Think in your training, do I have layered benefits like this? Can I name for each exercise at least 2 purposes? At least. If I can't, then I probably need to pick a different exercise, or maybe a little bit extra education on just what the benefits of the exercises, each exercise is. So there's a book that I love called The Strength Training Anatomy Workout 2. Okay, so there's a version 1, go for version 2. So the Strength Training Anatomy Workout 2, and the author's name is Frederick Delavier, and that's Delavier. When I have my interns come in through the university at the gym, so strength coaches and personal trainer interns, that's the first book I have them look at. So, and what it does, it teaches for each exercise the purpose, the negatives, like the things you want to avoid and be careful of, and then what muscles are targeted and all these things. So that is a great resource, the Strength Training Anatomy Workout 2 by Frederick Delavere. So look that book up, okay? If it's, I don't even know how much it is. Say it's $20 on Amazon. For the love of God, if you won't put $20 into your training, what the hell's wrong with you, okay? If you're going to do something, do it well. So just spend the $20, buy the book, and educate yourself. So that's going to help you make sure that you can kill as many birds as you can in your training to get the most efficient style of training and get the best results for the time invested. Cool. Okay, if you're excited by this, like I am, and you have any questions or if you'd like any help creating more efficiency in your training, we always can help with training, okay? So just reach out to us, brutalirongym@gmail.com. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it got your brain thinking, and it'll help you get better results for the time that you're already investing. Cool. If you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like the information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can tell us at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.